Presentation.
Okay, will you please welcome Richard Hoskins.
The subject of my talk today is why the Ku Klux Klan disbanded. What I'm going to say, I think, is real important. I hope I can put it in the right words to get this sense of urgency over to you. I hope you know, and I hope you realize, that you are the creme de creme of the entire nation. You're different. You've had more training, you're more knowledgeable than practically anyone in the country, far more than the average preacher. Now, it's time that you took your knowledge and did something with it, because sitting in front of your television and pouting about it's not going to do a whit of good. You're going to have to do something about it. And you must stay within the law for as long as the establishment will allow you to. I wrote this book, Vigilantes of Christendom, as a history book. It says no more than the history books of the followers of Islam say. It says no more than the books of the Jews say. It is a history book of our people who enforce the Christian law. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The laws, statutes, and judgments. If we do not have a lawful society, we have lost our God. Without our God, we die. First, I want to read to you real briefly a little background so you can get a feel. This comes from Vigilantes of Christendom, the story of the Phineas priesthood. Western society is like the human body. The life is in the blood. The blood cells are its peoples. There are two kinds: red blood cells, whose primary job is work, and white blood cells, whose job is education and defense. There are about 740 red blood cells for each white one. Red blood cells seldom recognize an invading foreign substance. It is not their job. On the other hand, white cells go snooping in closets and around corners looking for alien bodies to attack. The attack itself causes heat. The heat causes the body to manufacture additional white cells. The infected combat zone rises to a head as white cells are killed in the conflict. The head discharges pus along with the alien invader as the body cleanses itself. The pus is dead white cells. They have done their job and paid the price. If they fail, all is lost. The body will sicken and die. A healthy body will quickly recognize and destroy an invading alien body. To remain in the body, invading alien bodies must first neutralize the body's defenses. The only way to do this and not be destroyed in the process is to beguile and infect the governing brain, the king. Once this major obstacle is passed, other defenses can be infected one by one. Then the diseased defenses, infected by the alien invaders, can lead the defenses in full cry after the white cells. A diseased body's defenses are naturally the most outspoken against alien invaders. They are supposed to be, and it is expected of them. But if the defenses are infected, it means that the anti-aliens are aliens themselves. Those who go out to catch the germs are suddenly the ones who are pointed out as being the enemy. Aliens must control the defenses, even doing great damage to their own kind at times, or they will not survive. This is why crusades against communism, drugs, pornography, immigration, and abortion come to nothing. They are led by aliens or by body cells infected or financed by them. It is a catastrophe for themselves if invading alien microbes lose control of the defenses. It is the only way they can prevent the body from instantly destroying them. This is why an infected body does not mount a proper defense, and why there are seemingly patriotic leaders who cheer the flag and claim to love their nation and hate evil, but who don't know the basic 10 Commandments with their allied statutes and judgments, which are essential for successful defense. The infected defenses must divert attention from themselves. They are active. The body cells are constantly told that there is a crisis. The true virus that has invaded is not identified, but it is said to be something else. Everything from acid rain to bad food to terrorists from abroad or harmless foreign nations painted as hostile. The aliens lead the body to prepare the defenses and fight this great peril, Iraq. The body is then led in unprovoked attacks against its own self, or bodies just like itself, killing tens of millions of healthy red and white cells in the process. These abortive efforts exhaust the body and make room for additional invaders to occupy the space vacated. Numerous efforts are made by the body to organize an internal defense. Almost all of these efforts are initiated by the disease itself. These efforts boast prominent names, are adequately financed, and given publicity. Healthy white cells who respond are neutralized by expending their energy chasing a false prey, or they are led to prison where they can do nothing. The body is told that its ancient laws are void. It becomes muddled in its thinking. It has forgotten the laws established long ago to direct its thinking and actions. There is no shining knight who stays on his knees until he is wise enough to rise. Through the weakened and exhausted body, the infection spreads, demanding that the body stockpile tanks, ships, and planes for another abortive defensive effort against a victim who is not really an enemy. Bloodstream infection becomes obvious when alien bodies boldly enter and are actually seen traveling along the same blood vessels with the red and white cells, while the infected defenses will not allow any defensive acts by the white cells against them, or even allow them to be identified or even spoken against. The illness has reached the crisis. The body must now overcome the disease or die. In the hour of absolute desperation, the formerly wooden and useless white cells reject all slogans and all churches, all leaders, all abortive movements, and return to their own leader, the leader whose ancient word gave the body life in the beginning. When they do this, they become immune to false friends, renegade leaders, planet, dead-end organizations. They have everything they need. They pore over the word, seeking instruction. Humbled, a new being arises. His sword is the word. Wise, he can identify the sins of his people. Survival depends on the regenerated white blood cell, a cell rigidly judging everything and everyone by the ancient rules that ensure survival. A cell no longer misled, wooden, and infected. I come from Virginia. We had very difficult days after the war. I wrote a newsletter this last month. Do we have any subscribers to Hoskins Report? Yeah, a few. This is the newsletter you will get. I hate to ruin it for you, but there are others who might like to hear it. It's called The Klan. The first part of the following was taken from Vigilantes of Christendom and read at the Populist Party meeting in Asheville, North Carolina on July 13, 1991. It is felt that a reminder to others may be in order. It is entitled The Klan. There is so much misinformation written about the Klan that a few words should be devoted to its short history. The Klan was organized in Tennessee. For a brief time, it succeeded in maintaining the peace, and it was rapidly copied in the rest of the South. The leadership of this police organization was offered to General Lee. His health would not permit the effort, so he recommended General Forrest. The new leader was a straight-laced man. Forrest neither drank nor swore. He was known to have dismissed an officer for immorality. On Sundays, his tent would be converted into a church. Morally, he was superior. The official story is this. On Christmas Eve, 1865, 6 penniless veterans met in a law office in Pulaski, Tennessee. They planned a costume party. Ghosts were to be the central theme. On the way to the party, as a lark, they went out and frightened some blacks who had been causing trouble. They succeeded beyond anyone's hopes. The idea caught on. In 1867, the Ku Klux Klan was officially organized. Villainies committed by blacks and unsupervised soldiers were dealt with by men in Klan regalia. This resulted in a sudden cessation of depredations. Coward blacks and cautious soldiers on private looting expeditions suddenly started looking over their shoulders. The Klan also attracted the notice of the media. It was just what they were looking for. The media attention began a new chapter in Klan activity within months of its inception. The media had been in a quandary. Their instructions from their owners, from the New York banks, had been to keep the pressure on the South. This was hard to do. The villainous armies of the South were no more. They were unable to picture the kind, gentle General Lee as a ruthless Simon Legree. Whip in hand, he was now a worn-out old man, a college president in Lexington, Virginia. It was not believable to picture President Jefferson Davis plotting to poison and tar northern communities. He was a closely guarded sick scarecrow of his former self, imprisoned in a cold, damp hole in the side of an earthen bank at Fortress Monroe. His guards had been told not to be gentle, and they weren't. The less said, the better. Any of these stories that leak from the South elicit sympathy, not the needed abuse. For these reasons, the emergence of the Klan was a godsend. For the first time, the media had a whipping boy, someone to blame for all their troubles, a group that everyone could hate so that there would be a reason to continue to keep federal troops in the South, troops who would keep the black Republicans in office. A quote from the newspaper was this: "The North, reading its family paper, was told that there was no justice for loyalists in South Carolina." The Klan became front-page material. The theme hammered home was, "Southerners expound the law of hate." Now, where have you heard that before? Within weeks of its emergence, it became the Southern phenomenon. Every Negro Saturday night razor fight, every crime, every domestic disturbance was blamed on the Klan. When there was no crime, the Loyal League sent their own members out in Klan regalia to commit atrocities to be blamed on the Klan. I hope you caught that. These well-publicized outrages were used as a pretext to organize Negro militias to protect the blacks and carpetbaggers and to push the whites around. They were also used to produce national anti-Klan laws that were used against everyone in the nation who had something bad to say about the Republicans in office. Does that ring a bell? General Forrest was presented with a dilemma. He was trying to use the Klan as a Southern police force, but there was no way at all to respond to the vicious flood of false charges. The South possessed absolutely no friends who could or would take a stand in her defense. The few dozen Klan successes did not compensate for the bad press in the North from the resulting media smear. Klan bashing was an ideal way to further persecute the conquered people of the South. Forrest had no choice. He was apparently beaten. He disbanded the Klan within months of its organization. Sometime in 1869, the Klan was in existence for 18 months, and ordered all the records destroyed, forbade meetings or activity in the name of the Klan, and forbade former members from disclosing any information of Klan activities. A police force to protect the Southern whites was still needed as never before. Since a public one was not provided by the occupation armies, a private one had to function. It did, but not in the name of the Klan. The South organized, but in no-name organizations. There was no official organization, no records, no membership, and certainly no open membership. Everyone helped in some way. Men patrolled the streets and roads at night. Crime dropped, but the peace did not last. Violence erupted again. Newspaper headlines screamed, "The Klan strikes again." The Klan was indeed active, but it was a new Klan, a Klan with an entirely new membership. Its members were radicals impersonating Klansmen who worked in close cooperation with the media to furnish atrocity stories. This was a giant step forward in news management. This outbreak of Klan activity took place in several places throughout the South at once. Conspiracy. All minutely covered by the media. Conspiracy. The no-name organizations were from that time on at war with this fraudulent Klan, an establishment organization winked at by the occupation officials. Its membership consisted of carpetbaggers, military personnel, and the outlaw element who drawn sheets to commit their midnight robbery. Many were the unreported nighttime gun battles between the no-names and the radical night riders. There were no bodies found and almost no arrest. Many were the marauders who were uncovered and quietly disappeared. Many were the honest housekeepers as well as the slimy turncoat who just vanished. All records of them just stopped. Every Southern family has a family member during that period who just disappeared, usually quietly into a family cemetery at night. And the story was always the same. He suddenly decided he would go west and mine for gold. There were an uncle of mine, Uncle John, my grandfather, Dr. William Hoskins, came back from the war with his brother, Uncle John. Uncle John suddenly went west to mine for gold. We never heard from him again. There were no newspaper reports of these incidents. The Southerners couldn't report them without retaliation, and the establishment certainly wouldn't. The no-name victories of these midnight affairs were just not reported. There were no survivors to report them. Nothing. Just silence. The bogus Klan was the media's best excuse for a whipping boy. It made many things possible. Anti-Klan laws were enacted in 1871 and 1872, 3 years after the real Klan had been disbanded. Atrocities by the bogus Klan continued to be reported with gusto. They were reported even when there was nothing to report. Truth was no barrier to good reporting then as now. There was a lot of money riding on the continued occupation of the South. Now, that is what I read in the Asheville meeting. And I'm going to tell you the reason for it. I changed my whole talk when I went down there and I saw what was happening. Now, this is what happened to me in Asheville, North Carolina, the 13th of last month. I was invited to speak at a Populist Party meeting in Asheville, North Carolina. I've spoken to several Populist Party meetings before. They're good people. On arriving, I had to pass a half-dozen skinheads stationed at each entrance. These were boys in black T-shirts, black pants, paratrooper boots, and seemed to be between the ages of 17 and 22. They were clean-shaven and very polite. I knew the grandfathers of some of them. They were stationed there because threats had been made on the radio call-in talk show to the effect that the Populist Party meeting would be broken up. The Skins weren't going to allow a bunch of communists to break up this meeting. The communists have done it before in North Carolina, broken up meetings. Inside there were hundreds of ordinary Mr. and Mrs. America come to see what the new political party was all about. Constantly circulating about were about 20 men wearing T-shirts with KKK emblazoned on the front or American Nazi Party emblazoned on them. Inside there were numerous Asheville police. They were also nice and polite. There was someone outside with a computer going around taking down the license numbers of the attendees. Nice atmosphere. KKK, Nazis, skinhead, Populist Party, police. It looked so good, it looked media staged. 1869 all over again. Was this 1869 all over again, or was this 1991? Does the media have a history of using the KKK and Nazi Party as media meat, or don't they? Could it be true that some true conservative hadn't gotten the message? Or maybe there is someone who knows what he is doing. It is a fact. In spite of all the South's experience with such things, it appeared to have been done to us once again in North Carolina. There was enough media meat present to present a big target to shoot at, and they did. Once again, the media had a field day. You could have taken the media commentary of 1870 and used it in 1991, and it would not have been able, you would not have been able to tell the difference. No doubt the people in the Asheville area will from now on label the rapidly growing Populist Party in that area as the party of skinheads, Klan, and Nazis. If this was the intent, it succeeded. If the Populist Party is killed, little opposition to local liberal politicians ramming through more anti-gun, anti-militia, pro-immigration, pro-communist legislation can be undertaken. Could this have been the intent? The Communist Party in their rise to power in America didn't do this sort of thing. They never got out on the streets to give the conservatives a target to be abused. They didn't walk around in T-shirts broadcasting they were Communist Party USA. They never held news-covered rallies and waved communist flags. At least they didn't in Virginia. They would have been stomped. In Richmond, they listed their name in the phone book one time and received so much abuse that they never did it again. They dropped out of sight, disappeared. Communist Party members met privately, joined black civil rights groups, and used them as their vehicle to power. They succeeded beyond their wildest imaginations. What worked for the communists should work for conservatives in America, for the KKK and the Nazi Party, if that's their intent. Meet privately, and using a low profile, work through other organizations like the Neighborhood Watch, the local political party, the PTA. Go with what's going. If instead what is really desired to raise up a media target and give them a chance to blast the very projects the KKK and the Nazi parties say they are for, they are going about it the right way. Past news articles and court trial transcripts disclose the FBI has used the KKK many times in the past. FBI paid agents provocateurs have actually led KKK into violence. The KKK or Nazi groups in many areas may be nothing more than FBI fronts, in my opinion. The FBI is nothing less than the muscle arm of the current political party in Washington. Their paymaster pays them to get what they want, and they are good at getting it. They ought to be. They've been at it a long time. In my experience, government agencies will use anyone to advance the political objectives of the ruling powers in Washington. Advertised as non-political, the FBI, the IRS, and the like are the ultimate political enforcers in America. In my opinion, the populist party in the Asheville area has had a number played on them. For all effective, practical political action, it is now dead. It requires a new image if it hopes to be effective in the future. Think on it. What better way to defeat a project than to have the KKK and the Nazi Party be a visible part of it? We live in a world of political reality. Just as in the 1870s, FBI encouraged KKK violence has resulted in anti-militia laws and anti-gun laws and anti-white quota laws. Some help they're giving us. For your own personal effectiveness, it may be wise to assume that the KKK and Nazi Party visibility is provided with the full knowledge and encouragement of Washington, D.C., and is used as a whip to in some way manipulate the votes of the American people. There is no way their visibility can outweigh the media damage they cause. It is counterproductive. There is nothing new under the sun. It has all been said or done before. I finished a book recently. It was on Colonel Gale and his movement out in the West. I've forgotten the name of it, but I remember one passage in particular. The reporter, the one who wrote the book, was a reporter. That was her job. And she said that she was stationed outside the door where Colonel Gale lived long before the law enforcement officials arrived, because she had been tipped off by the federal authorities to be there so she could have a front seat. And the local officials, police officials, were very irate that the media knew about it before they did. Lesson: the federal officials and the media are working together in collusion. Remember that. The federal officials and the local media generally know what's going on. They help each other. Right here in this little group, as I said before, wherever you have a group of white cells gathered together, you're going to have a group of the other kind. And they generally have notepads in front, and when you say something, it's not springtime, motherhood, and love. Their pens are silent. But if you say, violence is on the horizon, they'll get right to work in their scribblings. I noticed when Eustace Mullins, who's very careful with what he says, by the way, was talking, they had a great deal of difficulty writing down his extreme remarks. He's learned not to be extreme. Like me, you never catch me saying anything extreme for that reason. He made the statement after a long time, the light of God does not enter a courtroom. And I was standing right next to one of these types, writing it down. Next, he went on a little while, and his pen was silent. Then he said, you will get Talmudic justice. And then he went on, his pen was quiet, and then he said, we are being swamped by rivers of aliens. Now, I don't know what he's going to be able to do with those three sentences, but you read the newspapers tomorrow. I'll bet you it's going to make real interesting reading. This situation is not limited to America. It's limited, it is all over the world at the present time. In South Africa, it was noted during the war at the turn of the century when England invaded to get the gold mines, you remember? The media did everything they could to facilitate the war. Far more important than the tremendous British armies was the establishment media. The Boers constantly complained of the way they were being treated. A Boer is a South African farmer. Such things as the following appear in their writings. This little state has been hounded down by its English enemies in the press of England and America. In another place, the crusade of lies carried on by the capitalist newspapers was in no way justified by the actual facts. They couldn't understand. And unfortunately, they didn't follow the law enough to put a stop to it. Afrikaners confusing the freedom of the press with giving license to an alien apparatus to teach murder, rape, plunder, and annihilation, and not knowing to establish a central information clearing office to guard and defend against the plague spread by this media, were helpless before the world media colossus, far more powerful and deadly than the British Army. The media were the reasons the army was there. The media was the reason the British soldiers committed their atrocities. The media were the whips of the international bankers used to rule the Christian British public. Thomas Jefferson complained about the media. Andrew Jackson condemned it. Its power was monstrous. People only know what they read or told. They can know nothing else. Based on this, they attempt to act righteously to ensure justice. Most, if given truth, act justly. If people are made to believe a lie, and believing a lie, they act to harm someone else, they have been presented with a stumbling block, and the law condemns the liar. In a Christian nation, the juries punish such offenders, and the government keeps watch to see that such things do not occur in a Christian nation. Now, in this country, we have selective blackout. What they print what they want, and what they don't want printed, they don't print. If it's known in a general community and there's no way to put a stop to it, they'll put it out in the news. But as far as letting it out to the rest of the country, such things just don't happen. Like, for instance, how many of you have heard about the race riots in Yorktown, Pennsylvania? You haven't, huh? Well, one of my subscribers sent me this list of write-ups of the riots that are taking place right now in York, Pennsylvania. It's all in the local newspapers. How the police forces and all the local communities are pouring in to see that peace is kept in York. York, Pennsylvania is one of the most beautiful, peaceful towns in the world. You have black, white, Hispanic, black, Hispanic, white race riots going on, and you don't know anything about it. And the newspapers are full of it up there. Now, this is the news management that you're up to it. And this is an open meeting, and we have these gentlemen here right now. And they will print precisely which they wish the public to know, and nothing more. The day will come when there'll be closed meetings. And we don't need the media. We've got our own media. It's the alternate media that's been built up over the last 10, 15 years. We now get our information around. Information that we had no way to have access to just a few years ago. We have smear words used all over. Things like racist, white supremacist. But you know, precisely the same language is now being used in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and England. White supremacist, racist, identity. Now, the bad word, of course, is identity. And we know, since we have the identical trigger words being used in all these places across the world where our people are, that it is conspired to do so. That we have, for instance, here we have a clipping, another newspaper clipping. Klan leader calls a land by a dream. This fellow named Tom Robb, it says here, Robb said a Christian identity church which preaches pride in the white race will be built on the site along with buildings that will house the national headquarters of the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Not only that, there's to be a gunnery range on that place. Gunnery range teaching identity. Now, I don't know what this identity is they're talking about. I really don't. And none of my books will you ever run across that word, not, being used in the sense that they're talking about. I personally am not identity. Now, I can't speak for anybody else. Maybe Aryan Nations wants to be known as identity. Maybe they are. I think that means identifying with whatever the government wants you to do. I think that's what the word identity really means. Me, I'm a covenanter. I'm a covenanter like my grandfathers used to be. I have covenanted with God to obey the laws, statutes, and judgments, and none other. Don't call me identity, because the newspapers say it's bad, and therefore it must be bad. There's one thing that you can count on in this country, and that is change. We have our problems. The Arabs have their problems. The Jews have their problems. The Jews are a great money payer in America. And some of their problems is they don't get along. You've got two groups of Jews. You have the religious Jews and you have the political Jews. The religious ones have curls alongside their head, and they call it Hasidic Jews. Now, in their communities, you go in their communities and do something lawless, they'll kill you. That's what they're there for. They enforce Jewish law. You have the Zionist Jews. Their job is to bring the Jewish people back to this place they call Zion. And sometimes they do not get along. And there is talk now that there is a battle between those two groups. And they really don't get along. There have been a number of books written by Hasidic Jews against the Zionist Jews. Now, this is something new. This is a falling out among friends. A Zionist versus the rock-throwing Hasidic Jew. Now, if you drive around on their Sabbath, you're liable to get a rock through the windshield of your car. Airplanes flying around have stopped flying around because they've been told they'll be blown up if they do. It doesn't make a difference whether they're Israeli airplanes or not. If they fly on the Sabbath, they might be blown up. They quit flying them. They don't fly around on the Sabbath. We now have other things like this reaching the media. It is stated here in Newsweek, October 15th, 1990, that the order to kill the Tsar of Russia. Now, who is the Tsar of Russia? He's your first cousin. He's your kinsman. He's your blood kinsman. He's the same as Robert E. Lee or George Washington, anybody else. He is your blood kinsman. Now, his execution was ordered by Nikolai Lenin. Well, so what? That information is the first time that ever reached print, and that's come out. And it couldn't have come out by accident. In the past, for the last 50-odd years, it's been said he had nothing to do with it. Now he is saying he had something to do with it. Okay. Then we run across another news article. And what is this news article that has just come out? I'll read it to you if I can just find the thing. This is awfully embarrassing, but it'll happen to you one of these days. So, this comes from the Jerusalem Post International, January 26, 1991. It reports, there is hardly a Russian nationalist today, now this is their newspaper, I'm just reading from it, who does not believe that the October Revolution was engineered mainly by Jews and Freemasons. The Jewish extraction of Lenin's mother has long been known to many Russian historians and party bureaucrats with access to inside information. But for the majority of Soviet readers, the first publication of a documented by M. Stein on the subject in a Leningrad journal, Literator, number 38, September 12, 1990, is bound to cause a sensation. Stein, in 1965, accidentally came across documents which corroborated the Jewishness of Lenin's grandmother. Stein was immediately summoned to speak to a senior party functionary who gave him a thorough dressing down. Later it turned out that the functionary who had scolded Stein himself had a Jewish grandmother. Publication of a documented article on Jewish, Kalmuk, and Swedish ancestors of Lenin could be the first step in the process of removing the myth surrounding the architect of the revolution. Well, you got a lot of information here. I don't know whether you recognize the significance of it, but somebody is doing a job on Lenin or on the Zionist. someone is doing a job on them. And it certainly isn't you, and it certainly isn't me. We don't have the power. Someone inserted this information. It turns out the Zionists are not the good guys. And who says so? Well, it was printed in their media. Somebody says so. Maybe it's a Hasidic group. I don't know. We have this man called Hans Schmidt of Ganpak who says that there is a falling out among the Jews themselves, because one group says what they're doing is going to lead to a true Holocaust if they keep it up. And another group says there's no such things. Now maybe this is true, maybe it's not. But on top of that, what do we have? We have a book called By Way of Deception. Now this book was written by a Mossad agent, an honest-to-goodness Mossad agent. This shadowy group that we've always heard about and knew nothing about. Well, I got the book and really read it in amazement. It says things that I couldn't say, you couldn't say, and goodness knows the media who hadn't told us about the York race riots that are going on. They didn't tell us about the farm revolts down there in Georgia when they were taking place. People lined up with the machine guns and standing in danger of their lives. They didn't tell us about the Kirk killing. They didn't tell us about half a dozen of these killings. They didn't tell us about the doggone bank up here in Chicago that went broke until 10 days after it went broke. The ones who manage the news, they're not going to tell you about it, so I'll tell you about it. All right. The Mossad. Now, the Mossad, the super secret organization. Now, this is the Jews themselves talking. This is the agent who defected. The book was first stopped by court order, state secrets. Everybody said, aha, what are the state secrets? And then they said, well, for freedom of press, you got to print it, see? So they got everybody's attention. Guess what one of the best sellers in the United States is? Okay, the Mossad, the book on the Mossad, By Way of Deception, you see? So somebody in the media wanted this book published, or it wouldn't have gotten that type of publicity. The Mossad, believe it or not, has just 30 to 35 case officers, or Katzes, operating in the world at any one time. The main reason is that Israel can tap the significant and loyal cadre of the worldwide Jewish community of Sayanim. I never heard the word Sayanim before. Volunteer Jewish helpers. I didn't know such a thing existed. Did you? All right. By way of deception shalt thou do war. That comes from the Talmud. That's why this book is named By Way of Deception. The Mossad acts by way of deception. They pretend to be a good covenanter. They say how the laws of God are just wonderful. And in the meantime, they take down notes of anything that can be damaging to us, you see. They work for a different master. And remember, if they don't get a good story out of this meeting, they don't get a paycheck and they don't eat. They're just doing their jobs. But if their jobs result in a Russian revolution where hundreds of thousands and millions of people die, well, that's unfortunate, but they got their paychecks. But this is where you're going to find them, in a group of patriots. You're going to find the other kind too. Then this part's called targets. We do most. This is the agent speaking. We do most of our work in foreign countries. For us, everything is either enemy or target. Nothing is friendly. I mean nothing. Okay, incidentally, as an agent, I smoke 2 to 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Almost everyone in the academy did. It's an interesting thing when you see a man who's a chain smoker. You always wonder, since reading this. Now, what is a good cover? Now, try experimenting with some of the guys who are here. You talk to them, get in a conversation with them, talk about the covenant. Talk about God's laws to them, yeah? And don't you be telling them everything. That's our tendency we've got. Tell everything. Listen to them. Get them to talk about it, yeah? Get to talk about them, where they come from. Talk about God's laws and how they got converted and how they got saved, what it was like, and what difference it made in their life. Talk to them. Talk to them. It embarrasses the dickens out of them. This guy says, I'm a dentist. We spent considerable time practicing covers, studying various cities through library files, learning to talk about a given city as if we'd lived there all our lives. We also practiced building a personality and learning a profession in one day. One of the first things we learned was not to give out too much information too quickly, because you use it all up. Ask questions. Don't volunteer information to these people. Ask questions. Also, when the class lets out, they make a beeline for the for the telephone. So sit and watch them. So they do this at every meeting. Just watch them. They'll run to the telephone and they'll vanish to get the story in. See, if there's any story at all, they'll have to base it all on one-liners, because occasionally I let a one-line slip through, which I don't mean to do. I've just been told I have 5 minutes, so I'm sorry I don't have time to go into this with you, because this is revealing, real revealing. The enemy is known by his tolerance of evil. We all know right from wrong. We know that murder is punishable by death. We know that kidnapping is not allowed. We know that rape should be severely punished. We know the laws, statutes, and judgments. We are not dependent on each other or anybody else. We've got one master, one God, one leader. We follow him. We all follow the same one. And the orders are the same for each one of us. So we don't need anyone else. It's great to come together with kindred souls. It's great to talk to kinsmen. But we don't have to. Each Sunday, each Sabbath day as it comes, if you are by yourself, you go to your dining room table at the time selected in your house and you open services if you are by yourself. And you have a church in that town, and it's you. And if you get your wife and kids, great. And if you get your kinfolks, the next door neighbors, great. And if you get some other people in town, great. But in any event, it's time for us to step out and move out in the world. Our dream is a dream our Lord and Master gave us. He made each of us a king and a priest. He put the laws in our hearts, and he told us to rule. He gave the 3 marks of his people, the 3 marks of Israel. We each know them. If you don't know them, for goodness sakes, go back in and get those handouts in my desk and memorize them. Memorize everything in that. If you're driving, have it pinned up there to the sun visor. Memorize every quote. And when you confront someone, do it. Let the Lord do it, and you keep your mouth shut. You quote what the Lord has to say about it. And let the guy you're talking to deal with the Lord. You'll find out that's awfully effective as time goes on. Okay. Our dream is what he wanted for us. The land is to be divided and never, ever to be sold. Ever. A place for us to be buried, and our children and our grandchildren and our fathers and grandfathers for 1,000 generations if necessary, on our own land. We can put a plant on the ground if we want and raise groceries. If we don't want to, we can go to Silicon Valley and get a job and quit if we want and come back. We put seed in the ground to get our increase, and who are we dependent on for the increase? Our Father. The one that we are dependent on, our governor. Now, this is our dream, and he's given it all to us. He said, this is your land. I've given it to it. Here it is. But if you let evil in the land, I will destroy you, and I will destroy the land. Will you remember this? All must know their Israel descent, or they have no God. Why? Because the word was given only to Israel and no one else. If we're not Israel, we have no God. You must know the 3 proofs of Israel. Then you have to know this. The enemy is eager to destroy all call on the name of the Lord. The name, the word. For he knoweth that when Israel shall repent, their days will be numbered. These people from the media and from the other side are here today because they got to be here. If they don't keep control and their finger on the pulse of the soul of America, they are through, and they know it. They are through. Their paychecks are done. Their paymasters are gone. The day of the Lord shall come as a thief in the night. All who call upon the name of the Lord, and his name is the word of the Lord, shall be saved. Know the name of your God, know what he expects of you, and trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not on thine own understanding.